Good everyone, on this video today we have a dumb comments episode, and this is episode 7. I never actually thought we'd get this far in this series, I'm not gonna lie, but clearly the stupidity factor has just gone up a lot. And well, we're starting off with Ikmal Ikram's comment, which I mentioned in the Kai43 sub request. Now, I'm not really gonna cover this comment too much, but I'm just gonna explain a bit more about why I was having a bone to pick. So obviously, as you can tell, I've added in a bit of more information to this comment, which is normally not something I do, but I've included when his channel was created, obviously the 11 months ago, which was in the November of last year, and then of course, this is when he made the request, and then obviously, I don't really want to cover this too much because it's already been done, but I obviously did say that I would bring this up in the dumb comments, and well, here it is. And like I said, it's just one of those things that, as I said, we've sorted it now, but I'm just hoping he's learnt from it. And well, let's move on to something a bit more dumb comment-ish, if that's even a word. Moving on to comment number 2, we have a comment from Angelo Morte1, and I have seen this guy's player card because I actually saw this guy in a match once. And to say he loves Italy is a bit of an understatement. He only seems to comment on videos that have Italian vehicles in them, and obviously this is the German SM79. And he claims that they handle way better in Sim, which to be fair is not a bad shout. But then he gets really dumb by saying, in Sim you can outturn some yaks in the TM version. Right, considering that is the heaviest one, because it's got the armor plating, I disagree. And he says that makes sense, considering it's made of canvas and pilot reports all proclaimed its maneuverability. Yeah, last I checked, they weren't saying that they could beat yaks and things like that. What's next? Are you going to say it's going to outturn fucking Spitfires in Sim? Because last I checked, that's not a thing. He then says, the side gunner's IRL could also aim almost all the way back. It's a bug they can't in-game. I think he means can't fix in-game. Yeah, I haven't heard of a source of that. So, yeah, as far as I'm concerned, that's bollocks. And even then, why would you say that this thing can outturn the TM version can outturn yaks in Sim? I have never ever seen that, and I sometimes look at Sim videos, and I just so happened to have watched one on the TM, and he got outturned by a B25 Mitchell. So if it can't even beat a Mitchell, I doubt it's beating a yak. So I think this is just a case of Italy, in a way, if that's even a thing, because yeah, some people worship Italy and worship Italian tanks and, well, those fucking tinderboxes, and seriously think that they were good vehicles, because the Italian tanks sucked. The only one that's in the tech tree that I would actually play that's purebred Italian is the, well, one's not a tank. In fact, no, there's actually 3. There's the AS4247, which is a car. There's the AB43, which is also a car. But then you also have the Solaris Sahariano. That's the only tank I would play that is purebred Italian, because it actually has good armor, good mobility. Whilst the gun isn't very good, it can get around the flanks and shoot people in the side, which is more important than hitting them front on. I'm looking at UM1441. But yeah, this is just pasta boot. What's the word? This is just pasta boot wank at the end of the day. Moving on to the next comment. This is actually in the replies. And I said that the Stuka is a better vehicle for ground forces. And then he says this. He finds the Stuka a worse Ori 2002 or the CB version of the Ori 2001. But the thing is that you don't dunk on enemy planes in those vehicles. I'll tell you why. Because your engine overheats before you even do anything, so you have to crank the throttle back. If you leave the radiators wide open, you're slower than a fucking gladiator, and you're at 3.0, I'd just like to reiterate. And additionally, Why the hell would you not want to use the Stuka, which is more tanky, it actually has a rear gunner, doesn't overheat as badly, and most importantly, it's a Stuka. It's more iconic, and most importantly, it can actually take a hit, which the Ori 2002 and 2001s cannot. And as you said yourself, the 500 kilogram bomb is a much bigger bomb, and you get 3 bomb drops as opposed to 2. I know what I'd rather take, and it ain't the 2001 or 2002. Once again, more pastaboo crap. Now we move on to one of the funny comments. There's actually, I think, 2 or 3 funny comments in here. Obviously, the rules with these is typically, there's normally only 1 funny comment, but I had to throw in a couple because there was some funny comments that were really up there, let's put it that way. So normally I would include the video that this was from. This is from the Bomber Zombie video, just to point that out. And we have a comment from the username Blackmark, who says, I'm surprised you used the BA-18 for a task related to Bomber. Obviously, I don't think English is his first language, so don't give him shit for that. I just can't do with it, due to small payload for bombing base mission and low ammo account for destroying ground targets. For destroying ground target with Bomber, I just use Brigand, and then he goes on about what he uses. I didn't really need to include that. What I did include, though, was obviously mentioning the context. So at the time I was nearing the end goal, and obviously I wanted to do a Bomber Zombie video anyway, so that's why I chose the B18, because it tends to get that. And then I said that, and I was on a boring Microsoft Teams call, so I needed a plane that would bring some joy. And then he asked, can you explain what a Microsoft Teams call is? I did obviously explain to him after, but I just found this funny because I'm very surprised that people don't know what Microsoft Teams is in this day and age. Like, sure, we know more about Zoom and things like that, and what's another conferencing app? I'm trying to think. I actually can't think of one. Those are the 2 that I know. But, yeah, I was very surprised to see that he didn't know what Microsoft Teams is. And I'll admit it made me giggle, and I just had to throw it in here. And, well, that's just typically what we do here. Moving on to the next comment, we have one that is quite long and winded, so just brace yourself. And most importantly, you'll also get to see why you don't get to see this comment anymore, because this individual has some, let's just say he's not the nicest chap. So we start off with Bakula, who says, local bomber doesn't like getting killed, makes video. If you'd have actually watched the video, instead of being a muppet and going to the comments section, you would actually realise that I didn't die in that plane. I killed both bomber zombies, and the point of the video was to try and make awareness. But of course, when it comes to dealing with retards like this, you don't get that. So I reply with local retard who chases bombers all game, doesn't even look at any part of the video to understand why it was done, nor did they pay any attention to their team or look at the gameplay part and realise that I wasn't killed, and I ended up killing the players who act like you do. Additionally, you did not look at any part of the gameplay where the context of this video was explained further. If you're going to make a dumb comment like this, please watch the video before doing so, because then you might understand what the video is about. I think that's a pretty fair response. Then we actually have a guy who has never commented on the channel before, who responds with, the point wasn't he doesn't like getting killed. I'm not even going to attempt to say his name, by the way. In fact, I will. Jekontivus Shabuba. There you go, that's the best I can do. It's that some planes handle things better than others. A bomber zombie is using a plane that would simply be an outrageous amount more helpful to kill a fighter than a bomber, especially a Sweden one, as Sweden bombers don't carry enough payload to get a base most of the time in that BR. That's a little bit false, but I'm not going to talk about that, because the B-18 can kill one base, and then you can drop the 8s on, or the 850s on the other bases if you want. If you get a match where it's the 3-base map, you can actually kill 2 bases, and then do about, I think, a third with the 850s that are left. It depends on the BR you get. But, yeah. I then said to Jekontivus, correct, you understand the point of the video, whereas Bakula did not. The point of this video is to make awareness of players making this mistake, not just against Swedish bombers. Regardless of the bomber, it is not a good idea to try and engage it in the way these players did. They were at low speeds and easy targets for defensive, or in this case, offensive guns. The B-18 handles like a fighter, some of the other bombers like a forward gun, but have fast firing and dangerous turrets. As such, this thing can teach players who do said bomber zombing a lesson. It's called educational. I didn't insult the players, I didn't say they were noobs, I simply said they did a mistake. That's the difference between not like getting killed and trying to help others. which is entirely what my channel is about, helping others and being educational in vehicles. That's exactly what we do. Well, I say we, it's me, but you get my point. That's exactly what me and the community try to do that I have. We try to help each other. We try to guide each other in the right direction. That's the entire point of why we're here. Because if we wasn't doing that, then it just wouldn't be the same, really. Because I always help my subs with tasks in the Discord server. I always help them out with Spade reviews. I always help them out with premium reviews and things like that. I even teach them stuff whilst we're flying in the VCs. And I do have some potential guide videos that I'm thinking of doing. I've got a couple on my notes, but I'm going to try and experiment with them because it's going to take some work to do one of them at least. Because it's one of those that either you have to do it in a certain way, or you have to do it with 3 separate points, a bit like the Brief Bomber Guide. So I think I'll probably have to work on something like the Brief Bomber Guide and just see what I can do, really. So, he then replies with, local bomber makes incensed, overly defensive reply, cannot be taken seriously, molds. And then I said to him, local retard who has still not watched the video for context and whose only contribution to society is to steal oxygen and attempt to insult people. Molds because you got told that you missed the context of the video by not a person who made the video for educational purposes, but a person who is entirely new to the channel. Great job. You know someone doesn't read comments or actually watch a video when they're getting insulted by they're basically getting pointed out by someone who had never watched the channel before. So there you go. You're really making yourself look a fool, Bakula. But it's about to get a little bit worse. Here we have Rainy with local brainlet likes to throw away the best aircraft from the team. He's obviously insulting Bakula here. Just to get a bomber and then get clapped. And Molds about having no teammates. They all got killed while you were chasing the bomber. And here is why I reported him and his comment got swiftly deleted by YouTube. Local insert have pride parade excitable for some reason. Right. Now, what would that have to do with anything involved in this entire comment train? Absolutely nothing. Assuming someone's sexuality is not a way to really make your comment or the point you're trying to make any more, shall we say, higher in a way, and even then you're automatically assuming that 2 people, or 3 people in this case, who are responding to you are of that sexuality. I know it's 2022, but it's not just, there's not just people of that. And even then, the fact that you're insulting that in this day and age proves what kind of a person you are. There is nothing wrong with that sort of thing. And even then, I have friends who are of that. I'm not myself, I'm straight, but you get my point. The point is that comments like this immediately delete your argument as far as I'm concerned, because you're just proving your personality and, most importantly, the way you think. And looking at his channel history, the only thing that this guy contributes is insults like this, which don't work, and also an aimbot on CSGO. So well done, Bakula. You're really contributing to this world. On to the next comment. We have another comment from the Bomber Zombie video, from a guy named Handaru. So basically, a Bomber player gets mad when someone plays the game how they want. This is another example of someone who doesn't watch the video for context. Because again, people just miss the point. He's probably too busy wanking over this fucking AE86 anyway. It's a nice car, don't get me wrong, but come on, there's much better cars than the AE86. I can tell you that right now. I've grown up in the days of Need for Speed, and I've also grown up in the days of Gran Turismo. And trust me, there's a lot better cars than that. But anyway, we're not here to discuss automobiles. What we are here to look at is my reply. So basically, someone doesn't watch the video for context and instead leaves a comment that makes them look stupid. The point of the video was to make awareness of people being bomber zombies, which is becoming an increasing problem in the game. As you will see in the gameplay, the 2 players involved in the match could have won their team the game had they not gone for my B18. but instead they threw their planes away for nothing. Clearly teamwork does not exist in your mind because these two players could have helped each other. And also, bomber player, I used a B-18 for tasks. There is a difference between being a bomber player and doing things in a B-18 for a task. I've spaded almost every prop bomber and actually some jets. More jet bombers, well, I say some. I've done one, and then I'm finishing off the C3 Arado, which you're not getting a review on that, by the way, because it's a sack of crap as far as I'm concerned. Yes, it does get two 20mm cannons, but the problem is that they're very low down mounted, and I don't like the way they are. And most importantly, if you get into an 8-3 match, God help you. But anyway, back to the comment here. I've met players like this every single match. There is also a big difference between being mad and being observant, but clearly you are too stupid to realise that, which is probably why you're a bomber zombie yourself. He then says, with two skulls, this was a bait comment because War Thunder players mould all over their keyboard every time someone doesn't agree with them. Top tip, don't reply to brain-dead comments. It's probably bait and a waste of time with a clown emoji. Welcome to YouTube though, bro. Well, I think the fact that you put the clown in there really indicates the kind of person that you are because, well, I'm sorry, but if you're using an AE86 Toyota, and most importantly, you're doing things like this and not expecting a reply, I think the only person that's brain dead is you yourself. And, well, you've already admitted it, and that's probably why you're a bomber zombie yourself. And I even say to him, enjoy being a useless bomber zombie to your team. You offer absolutely nothing as far as I'm concerned to the War Thunder community, so do me a favour, go back and shove yourself in the trunk of that car. Next up, we have another funny comment from Berti Bert, and he probably isn't going to like me for this one. So, as you can see in the video here, I'm just going to make sure you can actually read it. This is the Kai 44-134 Premium Series episode. Obviously, it's quite low quality, but this is because it's a screenshot, and obviously I'm zooming in and everything. And Bertie doesn't seem to remember that the Kai 44-134 is a copy-paste of the Kai 44-1 in the tech tree. And as we can see by his comment here, 40mm for the Emperor. Bertie, that's the complete wrong variant, and you know that. He then says you played a shameful variant. There is no shame, because if you watched that video, Bertie, which, I mean, you probably didn't, but I don't know. All I will say is, Bertie, you'll realise that we did not bring shame, we brought most honour. But, yeah, I had to throw this one in, because Bertie is one of those that likes to be in these episodes if he can. And recently he's been turning up the stupidity factor to 11, so keep going, Bertie, you might be in episode 8 at this rate. Next comment, we have one on my discussion video for replacing the P26P shooter. From Mr. Krabs. Well, unfortunately, Mr. Krabs, we have no secret formula here. I grew up in the days of SpongeBob, so that's why I'm making these references. And he says, I like getting in a 1.0 match in my D3 Stuka and using the back gun on these planes. He also liked his own comment, but, well, a lot of people do that these days. See, the problem is with your comment here, mate, is these vehicles that I suggested in this video are not in the game. So unless you've got a time machine or you've nicked the frickin' DeLorean from Back to the Future, I don't know why you've been able to use the back gun on your D3 Stuka on those planes. If you do happen to have the keys to that DeLorean, I would like to have a go, or have a little drive in that, because I could easily get it to 88 miles an hour. But otherwise, stick with the times, mate. We don't have these planes in game yet. Next up, we have Jesper Svensson, who says on the B3 Spade review, for me, B3C, it's best bomber in Sweden, obviously meaning Sweden, because it has 3 gunners and have all bombs inside the plane, so you don't need to turn back after you dropped all the bombs on the wings, like you do, or most do, with the B-18B, and it's quite fast. But it warns you when the speed gets over 400 kilometers an hour and the gears are very slow, and when you're trying to land, it can roll forward very easily. Right, let's break this comment down. So, best bomber in Sweden because it has 3 gunners. If I remember rightly, actually a good majority of the twin-engine Swedish bombers actually have 3 gunners. The only ones that don't are the B-18, which technically you have 3 because you have a gun, and then you have the 2 gunners. You've then got the B-17 dive bombers, which they only have 1, but obviously you've got the guns in the front for the pilot, so I suppose that's another gunner. And then you've got the T-18 B-57 and the T-18B, which only have 1 gunner, but of course they have the pilot control guns in the front anyway, and besides, the B-2 has a 57, so there you go. It's not called the B-2 anymore, but I've always known it as the B-2. But anyway. So having 3 gunners doesn't really help in this regard, and plus the gunners on that thing are quite shit anyway. Having all bombs inside the plane, you do know there's different payloads, mate, which you don't have to take the bombs on the wings, all in the wing routes, because they suck. And besides, you can just take rockets if you want to take something else. And then he says it's quite fast. The B-3C is one of the slower bombers at its BR, so I don't know where you're getting that from. And if the speed is getting over 400 kilometers an hour and it's giving you a warning, you're going slower than a Bugatti Veyron, which that's a car from 2006. I know obviously I'm comparing a 1930s Swedish bomber copy of the Ju-86 compared to a 2006 hypercar, but that's just proving how slow this thing is if a fucking Veyron can outrun it. Well, I say that something like the Hennessy Venom can outrun the Veyron, and then the Venom can actually outrun a few of the bombers we have in game as well, but you get my point. The gears are very slow, which I don't see why that's a problem, because you don't land it with the landing gear. And when trying to land, it can roll forward very easily. Again, why you landed it with landing gear? It takes like 40 seconds to come down. I never land my IAR with freaking landing gear, because it takes too long. I'm not sitting there watching as freaking Hans starts cranking... Well, in fact, no, it's not Hans, because it's in the Italian tech tree. I'm not sitting there watching... I nearly said Ivan then. Mario start cranking the bloody gear down for 40 seconds. I'm not sitting there doing that. I'd rather just get it on the ground and repair it in a bit. Simple as that. But, hey-ho, when people think the B-3C is the best bomber in Sweden, there's not a lot we can do, unfortunately. And moving on to the final comment, which is the the Japanese F4U review, which I think I need to give this an update. But anyway. From a user named YuriHyuja766, who asks, there's a Japanese version of the Corsair? No. Obviously, I've already explained this to him in a reply, but, yeah, no, there's not a Japanese version of the Corsair. What there is a captured version. They captured 2 of them, used the parts of one to repair the other, and then put it into flight testing and things like that. Yeah, there is no Japanese version of the Corsair. If there was, it would probably have Ho 103 machine guns, maybe some 20mm. It wouldn't have any in the engine, that's for sure. But it would be nice to see if they're actually, like, well, I mean, technically some people actually think the M1Ks are pretty equivalent to a Corsair in a way. Obviously that's not really the case, because one's a naval fighter, one's an army fighter, but you get my point. That's just what I've seen on some videos, by the way. Don't take that from my word of mouth, but yeah. It would be pretty funny, though, if that ever became a thing. But anyway, that is the end for episode 7 of Dumb Comments. As per usual, the comments that you see here, the majority of them are still up. So if you want to go and give them a bit of ribbon, do feel free, but obviously keep it... Like, don't go around harassing them and things like that, just for a bit of a laugh. Well, I say that not for a laugh, because harassing's not laughing, but I don't mind you going and replying with these comments, but just be mindful of what you say, because that does look forward on me and everything, so just bear that in mind. But anyway, I'm going to leave you all to it. I hope you enjoyed today's episode of episode 7 of the Dumb Comments, and I will see you all on the next one.